Note that at this stage, these are all a plan that's worked out to a point, but the model, the images, the renderings, they're all just really rough and conceptual. Once the bond passes this year at town meeting, we will then go into the effort of really honing the design and the details and what the building will actually look like and the colors and all the materials. So we don't, what we're showing is just a could be. The plan, we know we've got agreement on, the floor plan of the building, so those things are worked out. And if you have questions, please just ask away and we'll try to deal with it. So back in 2005, they looked with a different outfit, they looked at this building and how a renovation could be done and how an addition could be achieved. So it's been a few years. In 2013, they then looked at doing a new standalone building out behind this existing library, but that had some issues as well. Back in 2014, they interviewed and asked a number of architects from around the state, and we competed and were awarded the project to look at a new standalone building across the street on its own site. And this was one of the options for doing a new facility over there. That was found to be a little too costly, and it did not pass at town meeting, as most of you know. So we then went back to that's another rendering and the pretty pictures of that building in 2015. So then the idea of, let's go back to this building right here. Look at doing an addition to it and renovating this space. So in 2017, last year, we were asked to come in and do some conceptual modeling to determine how this building could be best utilized to meet the needs, fit the program in the space allowable, looking at the site, how the parking could work within the wetlands. And so last year in the summertime, we came up with 5 options. We started with option 1, which was based on Skip's idea of kind of making a square, keeping one point to have line of sight throughout all the areas. And then we came up with 5 other options. The trustees decided and selected option 5, which is, this is the existing library here, so to build a simple form, an easy addition off the end of this building, renovating this room that we're in, excuse me, and then utilizing the existing building as best we can. That was the floor plan that we talked about. Staff weighed in with comments, how to adjust it, what they felt needed to be done for their collection. We tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and ended up with a project that is 5,180 square feet of new addition, and then 3,927 feet of renovation of this library right here. Here is the schematic plan to date. We basically took that last rendering and developed it a little bit further, brought it into CAD and needed to provide Andre with a package of drawings that he could then put a conceptual budget towards. And so this shows there are things here that will likely not occur. We know we're going to end up having stacks around the perimeter as well, but this just basically shows the collection and arrangement that will fit with a little area for future growth of the library's collection. A much larger meeting room, program room. It has space off the side for storage, and there's a little kitchenette thing here. There's bathrooms. There's a small meeting room. Kind of the collection back of house, working on books. That's the reception desk. Then the entry will remain right here. We'll We'll modify the exterior, make it a little bit larger so you know that that's like the way in. So you'll come in through, here's the reception desk, you can go either direction.
I have a question on that.
Yep.
Does the meeting space have a separate entrance?
There is a separate entrance right here, so you can come off the parking into here in the
So
evenings.
So that room can be used in the evenings when the library's closed?
Yep, there's a control point right there
Okay.
to allow for shutting down the library.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Thank you.
good question. Any other questions about how the layout of the plan works? It's been kind of kicking around for a while, but it's nice to have the chance to ask now.
Yeah, Anthony, you could also point out that that smaller meeting room is equally accessible for evening use.
This one here.
Yeah.
Yep, good point.
That's actually going to be the New Hampshire History Room.
Okay. What else? So, one of the things that Andre did was we outlined right here some alternates that could be done with regards to renovating the existing facility, like replacing the windows and doing some repair work on doors and swapping out all the existing light fixtures for high efficiency LED lights. And since we're working on things, reconfiguring items, new flooring, so all of those, it was a pricing exercise of what a number of options would be. We didn't know exactly where we would come in with the total project cost, but the trustees and staff chose some of those alternates to be able to renovate this area to kind of bring it up to the same level that this new addition will be, so that when you're here, it's new, you're not going through an area and this is still old and worn and not up to the same quality level of the new addition. So they accepted those alternates and they're currently in the total project budget as we are talking about today. So all new windows, new flooring, new lighting. And most importantly, over this area will be more insulation in the attic. So on the top cord of the trusses will be an R60 blown in cellulose insulation, and that'll be consistent along the whole building.
Question?
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
It looks like you're like doubling your books capacity?
No, we're not.
What is it the same? Is it
We'll
third
probably
more?
have a few new stacks, yes, so we don't have to shelve books that are 7 feet high and maybe on the bottom. We have changed all our stacks out there because of space to build them up really high. So what we will do is, get them a little lower and spread stuff out some. And yes, there will be some new stacks too. But no, we're not going to double the size of the collection.
Is it a third more or?
I don't.
It was a third more on the last plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's
it wouldn't be
probably
more than that, I don't think so, and maybe less. What we really need is space for people, not so much for stacks, but for people.
Right.
That's what we're looking for.
I mean, the population is declining in town. The student population is way down from its peak. And
I don't know, last year there was a whole kindergarten class born. We just bought the newborn books from the Friends for them. There's
I'm just going by the numbers that I see that are reported in the school district
There's
statistics.
also several dozen homeschool kids, and I think there are about 60 kids under 5. So, it's...
So there's a boom in the brand
Coming
new
in.
ones.
Yeah, we got a couple of babies in story hour and a couple of pregnant moms, so it's not stopping.
What's the capacity of the large meeting room as laid out?
I think it's 82, something like that. 80?
80, yeah. 80 to 82. There are a few seats out to maintain egress paths, but
Thank you.
About twice the size of this.
Twice the size.
sir,
The rendition shows solar panels. Is that something that's included in the cost?
not currently. We intentionally are not pricing that out until we know that it passes, and the cost of solar panels is always changing down, fortunately. So we have a general sense because Andre's priced it a little bit, but it's not currently in the price of the construction renovation project.
Can I just say something about that? We've also been speaking with Revision Energy, which works with nonprofits and municipalities to find investors who will pay all the upfront costs for installation, and because they get the tax break, and then we would still get the break on the cost of the energy.
On some of it.
And Revision Energy is the outfit that worked with the town of Durham when we did their new library. We've fitted up and have provisions for a new array, and once the project was completed, they came in and installed the array not only on the library but on a number of municipal buildings in town. So it was one big package deal. So.
I have a question. Is solar's going different formats? I mean, is this a typical big glass panel, or they got new technology or something, or you're not aware of what's being offered?
There are new technologies, but that's not our area of expertise.
I don't know what they're looking at.
Okay.
No, questions?
There's more. Okay.
Yeah, I assume the school has a library. And is there some redundancy between the free library and the school library?
Not really. The school library is specifically to support their curriculum. We, they have a lot of social studies books and books about countries and stuff that we don't have. We're mostly a popular fiction collection for the kids. And of course, the kids can't use the school library on weekends or vacations or during the summer. They're also allowed to take only one book out at a time at the school library. So there aren't those kinds of constraints here. What?
I've heard mostly a media center.
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of computers in their library, in their media center. So no, we don't do a lot of duplication. In fact, they borrow a lot of fiction from us for kids.
So I wanted to just zoom in on certain areas because the main plan was large. I didn't know if it would be too tiny for everybody to see. So here's the existing library, which would be renovated, and then the next is more of an enlarged of the new addition of the facility. So you have, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just sort of swinging back a little bit when you had the various options. You did mention that this does not impact the wetlands?
Correct. We'll get to that too.
Okay, great, thank you.
The current front entrance will be closed, is that correct?
The current front entrance it can be open. It can be closed. We haven't decided exactly what is going to happen there. So I think there's some money that's been set aside for that, but.
Do you need egress outside in
Might
that
be an
section?
emergency egress.
Emergency
point.
exit, yeah,
Right.
in that part of the building? I
Right,
would
so it'd
think
be a
so.
crash
I would
bar,
think
so you
so.
just go out it.
Right.
Yeah, you
right,
wouldn't
right.
come in, you just.
You'd go out, it'd just be emergency.
What we don't want is to confuse people about
Right.
where the entrance is,
Right.
which is why, this becomes more of a focal point, and because it's a control access point. And then we'll have an egress out here, obviously that one. There's another door right here to get out and around. So we have the required distances and multiple means to get out. So the advantages of this particular project layout is the access to the uplands. It has far more parking than what we had with some of those other options. The structure is really simple, being just a gabled building working as an addition, and it doesn't really affect this existing structure all that much, except for this wall. So, and it's easy to phase. We're able to build a new building, move into there, and then focus on this side so that we have minimum impact on the library staff and the disadvantages are there's more perimeter and the distance of the control point, but I think we've dealt with that with the modifications that we have had. So we did a simple building section and a wall section to show the different pieces and parts and components. Again, this went to Andre to be able to put a good budget together. Having done this a number of times with your community, I know that there are a lot of folks in town that are detail oriented, so I thought it would be helpful to show these, just to be able to talk to if there's questions. That is the R60 blown in cellulose insulation on the bottom cord. So it will create a very nice energy efficient envelope on the new addition. The trusses will be cold and unfinished area. Clear span open. There may be something in structural in the middle in one spot, but we'll determine that as we go. The wall section itself is where all the good stuff happens. It's a traditional wall system. It's a wood frame building, so we'll have 2x6 studs. The envelope will be insulated with, on the exterior, there'll be 1-inch rigid insulation with the cement board siding. On the inside, there'll be a layer of spray foam that is an air barrier. It also provides some significant insulation, and then the rest of the cavity will be made up of a batt insulation. So the wall assembly is calculated at about an R34 wall assembly, which is greater than the energy code requires, and then R60 in the ceiling, like I've mentioned in the past. So the envelope will be very tight and efficient, which will allow the mechanical systems to be lowered. So just some details, that's all. So, yeah.
Was consideration given to like a vaulted ceiling to be open?
There are areas where we may be able to do that, but it then gets to be a cost issue. I think there may be an opportunity from this main entry in for a little bit of a vaulted space, but I think we can't determine that until we get into the details of it.
I have a question. Can that open space up above eventually or at some point be converted for more space for storage for, no?
No.
It's absolutely dead space. Okay.
Yep, and we want to maintain that insulation. We want to cap the ceiling.
I understand, but
Yep.
it was just a question.
Yep. Okay. So we talked about the site. So there was a survey that was done. The survey outlined the areas of wetlands. A wetland scientist performed an analysis, and he provided a hand sketch with some areas. And there was, and we have copies of them here if you wish to see. There was some confusion between the two versions, the survey and the wetlands drawings. And when we did an overlay, they didn't align. So a lot of the concerns that the community had previously about not being able to utilize the space was because of that data. So we worked right around the areas that are known to be damp, and then we've got retention pond locations for the civil engineer to utilize, because we know that it's going to sheet drain and we need to be able to manage that water on site. We haven't had our civil engineer begin any analysis yet on the, because we're still in the conceptual stage. If it passes, when it passes, then we'll get North Branch here to look at things deeper. But right now, we are able to maintain entry in, add some additional parking, and work within the areas between the known wetlands.
You mentioned the data and the confusion and so forth. I mean, have the wetlands been definitively established as where they are?
Yes, they are.
So you're confident of that, it's not gonna end up under the parking lot?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was the confusion, because what was provided to the library from the wetlands scientist had this area here right there. So it was not allowing for the same kind of access and use of the space.
So what was it, I'm still confused as to how the confusion arose. Did they re-establish, did they re-survey?
This is the original hand-drawn. You'll see that the library is not in the right place. And this wetland is also not in the right place, but that's why we thought we could never go down.
I see. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else want to look at this?
Pass it around.
Okay. So, a few of images out of the model that was rendered. A couple are here. I just took some snaps around the building. As I said earlier, the colors haven't been determined. You know, if changes need to be made, we still have plenty of time. This entry tower area can be modified slightly. There's a nice area for the solar array with the appropriate solar orientation. So this is when I'm going to shift conversation over to the construction costs and let Andre do a little talk about what the delivery method is planned to be with this project. Yep.
Before you do that, my understanding is the new portion will be radiant heat, correct? Under the floor? Is that what we were thinking?
I don't think we've determined that yet.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wondered if you were going to do anything with the contract. Okay.
It's something we're definitely looking into
Okay.
as an option. One of the issues with radiant heat is it poses challenges with trying to anchor book stacks. Because if you put a bolt into piping, it's a nightmare.
Big problem. Okay. Let's not.
It is radiant heat in this room and in the new, the whole new addition is all radiant heat out there in the children's section.
In the children's section?
Yeah.
Correct. We've had this conversation. We know it's, but we haven't determined it as of yet.
Okay.
You want to talk about?
Sure.
We have a question.
Shoot.
I'm looking at the wetlands plan and I see a 2006 certified sketch showing the library location, the pond, the limits of the wetland. This new one is a topographic worksheet where they've taken the 2006 one and blown it up and put it on top. I don't see any certifications that either one, other than the first one, is accurate. So I think it is possible that you might run into problems out there. Because all they've done is blown up the first one on a different base map.
The second map comes from White Mountain Survey, Sue.
Yeah, I see that. Is it certifying that this is the limits of the wetland?
Apparently.
No, it isn't. It's a topographic worksheet where they've taken Greg's work, blown it up, superimposed it over the new locations. They used a more accurate method, apparently, to locate the buildings than what Greg had used to locate his limits of wetland.
So this was...
Okay,
this was-
neither one is, I mean, this one is not certified. So it's possible that it could be wrong.
There are a lot of people in this room actually who have been out there and had a look, and
They're not certified soil scientists. It's not what it looks like to the untrained eye.
From our understanding, the wetland scientist that was used did not provide detailed renderings of exactly the location of it. When the survey was done, they showed the areas on the survey, the digital ones, and when the overlay was done, it was clear that it wasn't to scale. It said it wasn't to scale, but the concerns that were voiced previously was that the major wetland was located a completely different area in the side yard. So we went with the survey and utilized the areas that were delineated on his survey.
I know, I can see exactly
Yeah.
what was done, and I'm just saying, this new one is not certified, that it's accurate for where the wetlands actually are in relation to the property. It's just a blow-up of Greg's original work superimposed on a new base map, and that's open to question.
Was the first one that was done some time back, is that an actual certified map done by an engineer?
It's a certified map done by the soil scientist.
What's a soil scientist versus an engineer?
Soil scientist is trained to identify soil types and soil properties, and they generally use a compass and tape type of location when they're locating their own work. Which
So
looks
it's an
like,
argument between a scientist and an engineer, is that?
no, no. They did not have a surveyor go out and locate Greg's marks. Looks like Greg located them himself using a compass and tape rather than an accurate theodolite survey, which this base map that White Mountain apparently has done would be more like a theodolite survey, and they've taken a compass survey and overlaid it. So a compass, you can be off a foot every 10, 15, 20 feet. A theodolite survey, you're off, 1,000th of a foot in 100 feet. There's a big difference. And it's the same with your bearings and your angles. They're more accurate with the theodolite than they are with the compass.
So
And this would have a certification on it if it had been done, at the same time with the same methods.
I mentioned the civil engineer who will be working with us on this project when it passes, and they have a wetlands scientist who works for them in their office. They will utilize the survey that was provided, and they will also flag the areas, and we'll have a clearer, more accurate, stamped and certified plan.
Right.
Once we move to the next
So
level.
this is subject to change.
Hopefully not.
Well,
Yeah,
Hopefully not,
Hopefully
because
not,
I
but
just want to say something
it
as a
is.
member of the community here, and I've lived here a long time, and yes, I use the library and love it. But we have spent so much money on surveys and plot plans and architectural drawings. We could have built a whole new library for what we spent already. I mean, it's time for this community, and I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer. We're either going to have to step up to the plate and build this addition, or figure out how we're going to renovate this building so we can live in it for another 6 to 7 years. And what's the difference in the cost between trying to put this older building in shape to really stand up or go forward?
We can't wash our hands here.
No, we can't wash our hands.
Well, that's the septic system.
Yeah, so
That's
what's the
part
new
of it.
cost for a septic system? You have to upgrade, you gotta upgrade the septic. Now you gotta build a second one for, I mean, you guys are penny wise and pound foolish here sometimes.
Sue, may I ask, what would it take to certify? I mean, what, would you ask White Mountain to do a certified, I mean, your experience, what step would it take to get what you,
Comfortable with?
yeah. What should be done? I don't know, you know, but I.
Well, the engineers will do that when they do
This,
the,
this plan here should have a soil certification on it. That this is where the soil's boundaries are.
But it came from them, so that's why we felt as though there was some confusion between what the civil plan outlined, the survey outlined, and that their overlay. So I think we worked with the best information that we had, knowing that our team has a wetland scientist, and we will get there if the project goes to the next step.
Well, I know, but I think it's been misleading because it's been repeatedly said that it was redone and, you know, there were errors made on the first one.
I thought it was redone. You had it come
This
twice,
is the
did you not?
same, this stuff here blown up and pasted on a different plan. That's all it is.
Maybe we need just a letter from White Mountain.
Right. I
That's
was
a
just going to
simple
ask, can we just go
contact
back to White Mountain Survey and raise the question that she has raised? And say there's somebody, way your challenge is what the information you gave us, and they will have a response from it, I would think.
So I would go to the trustees who engaged with them to begin with. Yes, sir.
The long and the short of it is, as you go through your construction period and your planning period, is that when you get your engineers involved, you're obviously not going to build a building that's going to invade wetlands. I mean,
Right.
that's impossible.
Correct.
So what's the big question is that if you get to that situation, you should be assured that it's not an obvious problem.
Correct.
But when you get into that kind of a situation where you're making test borings and all the other things, that's when you make your field decisions in terms of what you're going to do.
Correct, because all of these
It has
are
nothing to do with the
schematic.
approval of a concept.
If the parking needs to be adjusted out away from an area more, then that's what will happen.
So you're saying you're gonna have a soil scientist go out again and do